Welcome back to Red vs. Blue episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 33, An Audience of Dumb. Sheila advises Tucker to take evasive action since he can't slow her down, leading Tucker to counter for her to take evasive action, leading for Lopez to try talking to her, with Lopez declining, stating he wasn't good at talking to beautiful women, referring to Sheila, adding they make him sweaty. Meanwhile, Donut, assuming him and Griff are about to die, claims that since it's the end for them, there's only one thing left for them to do, calling him old buddy. Griff, assuming Donut was going to suggest something sexual, states he might have to try and kill himself if Donut suggests what he was thinking. Much to Griff's relief, Donut instead suggests that the two of them make a break for it, leading Griff to suggest running on the count of 3, stating that's worked well for him before, referencing episodes 7 and 8. Donut accepts the idea, but instructs Griff to be the counter. Griff agrees, but turns the other way as he tells Donut not to look at him while he does, as he gets nervous. Griff begins counting as Donut betrays him just like Griff did to Simmons before, running away instantly. Griff doesn't notice this until he turns around when he gets to 2, revealing he was planning to betray Donut as well, saying son of a bitch and cursing him as he realized Donut beat him at his own trick. An instant later, Sheila and Tucker speed directly into the Warthog's remains, sending them flying out of their way as they crash into the base, causing Lopez to freak out, repeating aye. Donut runs into Red Base where Sarge and Simmons are, as Sarge loudly questions what's going on outside, with Donut explaining that the Blues were attacking with their tank and blew up the Warthog again, leading Simmons to question only half sarcastically what Jeeps ever did to make the Blues hate them so much. Donut continues, happily stating how lucky Griff and Donut both escaped in time, turning behind him to confirm with Griff, questioning where Griff is, shocked that he didn't follow him. Meanwhile, back inside Caboose's mind, both churches, in addition to False Caboose and Tex, had located the Reds. Church complains, questioning why he was paired with False Church for the journey to the Reds, with False Church responding that he wanted to keep his eye on him, stating how he didn't trust him enough to try and steal his best friend, False Caboose, calling Church a rim job and giant turd. False Church then yells across the room to get the False Reds' attention, informing them that the Grey Caboose demanded an audience with them, wanting them to listen up as he called them blowjobbing cocksuckers. False Simmons reveals himself first as a scared wimpy guy, worryingly claiming Caboose was going to kill him and the other False Reds. False Griff reveals himself next as simply another scared wimpy guy, but now with piss yellow armor instead of gold and orange, practically crying begging someone to help him, stating he didn't want to die. False Donut then reveals themselves next as a girl who states she's still afraid of Caboose, stating how scary he is, despite loving him, as a callback to episode 17 when Caboose thought Donut was a girl. Finally, False Sarge reveals himself as a guy with such a strong southern accent he sounds like a pirate, saying "Arr." False Caboose attempts to calm the False Reds down, clarifying he didn't come to destroy, but to ask for their assistance, but Church interrupts him by repeating "whoa" over and over, clarifying that he needs to correct some things with Caboose's mind, in shock with how Caboose views certain people. He starts with False Church, stating how he isn't Caboose's best friend, adding Church doesn't have a best friend, further stating the reason why was that he didn't need one, claiming that knowing other people just waters down the experience when you're Church, insinuating that he's better than everyone and should live the dream by himself. False Church simply responds by demanding Church to shut up, calling him a dick snipper. Church then moves on to the False Reds, literally questioning False Caboose if he's paid attention to their enemies at all, with False Caboose dignifiedly responding, "I beg your pardon?" Church begins bitterly stating the issues with the Reds, starting with the fact that Griff should be orange, not yellow, and then questioning sarcastically when a girl joined the Red team, knowing the answer was never, as False Donut randomly stated that her favorite thing was pretty dresses, and asked if anyone had tampons, and False Sarge to claim he had termites in his legs, repeating "R" once again. This led Church to angrily criticize False Sarge's pirate accent, yelling it was supposed to be an actual southern one, going insane by how fucked all these versions were. Tex angrily yells at him to calm down, as False Griff begs Church not to kill him after seeing his anger, calling him Mr. False Caboose's sidekick due to his similarities with False Church. False Church angrily clarifies that he's False Caboose's sidekick, not Church, calling False Griff butt brunch, demanding he shut his pie hole. Just then, though, a bullet comes for False Church's head, hitting him dead on. Church swiftly asks if False Church is okay, calling him by his first name, Leonard, to differentiate them. False Church, shockingly appearing unharmed, cockingly states that a bullet could never kill him, calling it a fudge figure, before swiftly correcting himself, stating he was about to die, requesting someone blow him as his last words, before collapsing and dying. Tex had spotted the shooter by this point, alerting everyone else to look atop one of the great platforms, where O'Malley, who was currently in black armor, was standing, laughing maniacally. Tex triumphantly shouted, "Let's go get him," as Church instructed False Caboose to come along. Much to Church's surprise, False Caboose responded by questioning if they had met before, apologizing if he had forgotten. Church simply restated his name, annoyed, with False Caboose confirming that he didn't have any memory of him, and reintroducing himself as Michael J. Caboose, using his first name for the first time, stating it was a pleasure to meet him, totally oblivious to their previous encounter. Church talks to himself in annoyance, holding out hope that Tucker was doing a better job getting the Reds to turn off their radios. Meanwhile, back in the physical world, Tucker had exited Sheila's cockpit, commenting on how bad the situation was going, and asking if Lopez, who had been grazed by the tank when it crashed, was okay. Lopez luckily confirmed he was alright, but boldly claiming he was impervious to injury. Tucker, obviously unable to understand Spanish, simply calls Lopez a show-off, just because he appeared unharmed despite being hit, then moving on to question if Sheila was still online, with her also confirming. Tucker, relieved that not everything was fucked, happily claimed that they should be close enough to tune into the Reds' radio frequencies, instructing Lopez to hop inside Sheila and do his business. Sheila and Lopez both question Tucker alarmingly, taking the statement sexually, as Lopez claims he's getting very sweaty. Tucker, ironically despite being the perverted one, says, "Oh my god," in disgust at the absurd robot romance, asking Lopez and Sheila to remind him to hose them off when they return to base. Meanwhile, inside Red Base, Sarge, stating the situation was a devil of a picadillo, requested Simmons to get on the radio and inform command of Griff's death, calling the radio a squawk box, but when Sarge and Simmons tune in, the only voice they find is Tucker's, who questions the Reds if they can hear him after greeting them. Sarge angrily asks Tucker who he is, with Tucker calmly stating his name and revealing he was a blue soldier, clarifying that although he didn't have time to explain, he was calling because he needed all the Reds to turn off their radios immediately. Sarge unsurprisingly reacts by stating it would be a cold day in hell before he took orders from him, calling Tucker boy. Tucker, desperate, assured them that it was really important, arguing in his defense that he would normally just like to shoot the Reds and take their girlfriends, but today was different, and he needed them to trust him. Sarge sarcastically responded that he may have spoken too soon, adding how well thought out, clever, timely, and interesting Tucker's request was, calmly asking Simmons to respond with a rebuttal. Simmons does exactly this, shouting the infamous line, "Suck it, Blue," confirming Sarge's sarcasm. Donut excitedly shouts, "Suck it, Blue," as well, calling it an old school zinger, rubbing it in Tucker's face. Tucker simply sighs in disappointment, stating, "Oh man." Back in Caboose's mind, O'Malley is still maniacally laughing, running away and jumping from platform to platform, taunting that they could never catch him, as Church and Tex chased after him, Tex encouraging Church to move faster as O'Malley was escaping. Back in the physical world, Tucker realized in annoyance that the Reds were not going to back down, so he instructed Lopez that it was time to begin Plan B, which he had already discussed with him, leaving Lopez to oblige and hop out of Sheila, starting to sing in his horrible Spanish voice on the radio a love song he had written out about Sheila, called Mi Amor Tiano and Cannon Grand, that Tucker had directed and placed on record by Metal to Metal Records, called Senior El Botto Club Remix 08, that played a beautiful love song instrumental to go along with Lopez's beautiful words, which was as follows, followed by more in Spanish untranslated. "The first time I saw your treads, an enormous chassis of steel, I knew that I had found someone to share a robot love so real." Sarge reacts by bitterly questioning what the hell was on the radio, heavily disliking it, as he compared it to a crying Mexican Sasquatch, and Simmons reacts by screaming in horror, begging it to be stopped and turned off. Donut, on the other hand, unsurprisingly loves the song, repeating over and over how much it rules. With Church back in Caboose's mind, Church and Tex successfully managed to corner O'Malley, with Church cheekily but jokingly stating that if anyone was going to make his girlfriend cranky and psychotic, it would only be Church. Tex appreciates the sweet comment at first, only for Church to swiftly revert to usual, calling her a bitch and telling her to shut up, with Tex responding by calling him an asshole. O'Malley retorts Church's claim of victory, stating the darkness would swallow them whole, being as cliché as he is. Church takes the chance to respond with some cliché lines of his own, stating that O'Malley was simply a big headache, and Church had a pistol of aspirin. Church had half a mind to kill him, and the other half agreed, and that O'Malley was about to be split, referencing split personality, leading Tex to add how bad these one-liners were. Back in the physical world at Red Base, Sarge, not being able to take the shitty song any longer, ordered Donut and Simmons to turn off their radios, bitterly not backing down, warning Donut to follow orders and not try his patience when Donut pleaded repeatedly, practically begging Sarge to keep it on. Donut reluctantly obliged, as Simmons and Sarge both turned off their radios with no issue, leaving Tucker, who was eavesdropping on the Reds complaining from outside, to celebrate, shouting in happiness and instructing Lopez to end the song and turn off his radio, to which Lopez obliges. Back inside Caboose's mind, Church warns Tex that Tucker might not have had enough time yet, but Tex wastes no time with one-liners as she shoots O'Malley, stating snarkily that Payback's a bitch, but so was she, having little regard for if Tucker was ready or not. The one shot eventually escalated into shots coming from all three of them, ending in Church groaning, and questioning where Tex and O'Malley went, and wondering why O'Malley didn't leave behind an echoing laugh or the smell of brimstone. Meanwhile, the episode zooms from inside to outside Caboose's head, and then pans to Doc, on a cliff in Blood Gulch, close by to a cave, trying to contact command on the radio once again, informing them of his name and just barely reaching Vic, the guy who throws dude into every sentence somehow, as he gets overtaken by something.